In this video, we'll be talking about the number sense TEKS 1.2D, 1.2E, 1.2G, and 1.2F. This is where students are going to be generating a number greater than or less than. They're also going to be comparing a number using comparative language and also using a comparison symbol, less than, greater than, or equal to signs. And students will also be ordering whole numbers up to 120. In the first semester, we'll only be working on numbers to 99. And then the second semester, we'll be working on numbers up to 120. When we start out talking about this with the students, we're going to begin with where students are just generating a number greater than, less than, or equal to. And again, we want to start with very concretely having the students build a number. We can move on to using the base 10 blocks. We're not having to do any type of decomposing these numbers, so just using the base 10 blocks should be okay for them. So if we're generating a number greater than or less than, we want to talk to the students about how can we make this number smaller. As long as we remove either something from the ones or something from the tens, we're making a number that is smaller than what we started out with. So if we had the number 23 and we removed 110, we now have the number 13. And the students could talk about, I just generated or I made a number that was smaller than the number 23. Students can also generate a number larger by adding base 10 blocks. And so we want to give them enough opportunity for them to see that when I add numbers, or when I add blocks to a number, I am creating a number larger, and when I remove them, I'm creating a number that is smaller. And once we've worked with the kids on generating a number using the base 10 blocks, we can also have them look at a number line. So we can just provide them with a number line that just has some numbers on it or it has no numbers on it, and we can say, well, if I had the number 32, what might be a number greater than 32? And so they could actually use some of the numbers that we already have on there, or they could look at a number that isn't represented on there. So they could say something like 60. If something that's less than 32, they might say something like 15. All the while when they're doing these conversations, we want to make sure that the students are explaining or justifying what they know and understand. So something that we can have them do are use some sentence stems to help them articulate what we want them to say. When we have those sentence stems, we want to make sure that we're using the correct vocabulary with them, using that academic language, greater than, less than, more tens, things like that. So these are just some a sample kind of progression that the kids could use. I know that 16 is less than 25. I know this because, and then they would just fill in the blanks with the number of tens or the number of ones that they might be using in order to justify or do their explanation about why a number is greater than or less than another number. Students can, very straightforward, just be given a number. Once we've moved on from the manipulatives and the number line, we could just give them a number 27, and the students could then share a number greater than or less than, just randomly start generating numbers. Just like before with our place value, we can use random numbers, random number generators, student provided numbers, whatever we want. We can also use factual data. These are just from a lesson that that was done with first grade this year, where it was just pictures of different types of fish, but it gave how fast they moved, whether it was moving through water or whether they were running, and it gave them their miles per hour. And these were just pictures off the internet and just data off of a fact information website. So if we use things like this, it's giving some purpose to the numbers. It's making the numbers more real rather than just randomly generating them. So just making these cards, this could be something that could be displayed in the class, and then we could use this information in order to generate and compare and order our numbers. When we start comparing numbers, if I had 2 digits to begin comparing, and let's say, for example, our numbers that we're going to compare are 37 and the number 59. We want to make sure that we have the students start out again very concretely, so we can have the students build the number 37, 5, 6, 7, and 50. 3, 6, 7, 8, and we need one more for 59. And the students could then compare, and we could talk to them about which number is greater than, which number is less than. We want them to use that comparative language before we have them start using the symbols in order to compare them. But when I use the manipulatives, I can physically count them to see that this one has more tens than this number here. And that's where the benefit of using those manipulatives are. They also have the abstract where they can see the number 3 and the number 5. We can also go back to using the number line that we saw before, and we can compare those same two numbers, 37 and 59, where the students could find where the number 37 might be and where the number 59 might be. And if I understand how this number line works, that my numbers get larger as I move to the right, I know that 59 is greater than 37, or 37 is less than 59. So providing the students, this is going to be more of a pictorial way to help them understand, more of a visual than just the blocks and being able to manipulate them. So finally, we're going to be moving on to kind of a pictorial and concrete way to sort of look at comparing numbers. If we have the same two numbers, 37 and 59, and we're trying to figure out what comparison symbol will go in here. At this point, you probably have some students that are not going to have any trouble telling you that 37 is less than 59 and being able to put the symbol in between those two numbers. But if you have students that are still struggling, you can use some type of manipulative to help them understand. Instead of using the base 10 blocks and seeing them, we could very quickly just show that I have 3 tens in this number, and I have 7 ones, and I have 5 tens, and 9 ones over here. We want to make sure that the students at this point have a really good understanding that we should be comparing our tens first and then our ones. But by seeing this visual here, if I'm still stuck with, if I'm looking at here and I have a hard time with 3 and 5 and knowing which one is greater than or less than, then I can see these numbers here. And it's not about understanding the tens, it's just about understanding 3 and 5 when I'm just using these pieces here. It takes 3 tens compared to 5 tens. So this is just another visual. Students could also draw this. So if I'm working and I don't have the manipulatives, I could just draw 2, 3, and 7, and then they're 9 over here. So I can do this still very pictorially for the students to help them understand before they just jump to this very abstract, here's 2 numbers that I'm comparing. Okay. Again, we want to make sure that as the students are doing their comparison, that we're having them work with these number sentences. And this is where they'll actually be filling in. 37 is less than 59. I know this because 37 has 3 tens and 59 has 5 tens. There are more tens in the number 59 than in the number 37. So having the students have these sentence stems are going to help them, again, articulate their justifications more than them just randomly kind of coming up with something out of their head if they don't have that academic language just yet. Okay. We can start by questioning the students even before they start doing their comparing. How are these numbers alike? How are they different? Before they jump to actually putting in any kind of symbol or giving any kind of language into that. That's one thing that we can do. When students are comparing numbers, let's go ahead and talk about the comparison symbol. And we want to make sure that we're following this. Alligators are for swamps, not for comparing numbers. I think this is a really easy way for us to remember. This actually came from Donna Boucher from the Math Coaches Corner, but we are not going to use alligators songs that refer back to alligators, we need the students to understand the symbols. We're starting out very concretely to teach them place value and then moving on to learning about those symbols. So we're not going to give them alligators, no teeth being drawn, no Pac-Man. We want them to understand that this symbol means greater than, this symbol means less than, this symbol means equal to, and be able to put that in there. And all of their justification goes back to place value that they can explain from there. So if students are struggling with how do I compare these numbers, I don't know what symbol I need to write in between them, a strategy that we can help the students with is something called a dot method or two-dot method. When I know that the number 59 is greater than the number 57, I can put 2 dots by the larger number, 1 dot by the smaller number, and then I just do a connect the dots to help me make that symbol. That's usually where the students are going to get more confused, is which symbol goes in there. And so this is still relaying that this is the larger number, this is the smaller number, just no relationship back to those alligators. They need to stay out of the math class. So making sure that the students understand place value and then they learn their symbols. When students are ordering numbers, they're going to be ordering numbers on a number line. So we can still use this exact same number line that we had from before. We're just going to flip it over and just use this top part up here. If students are having to order numbers on a number line, for example, the number 36, 27, and 42, and they're asked to put them in order from least to greatest, they can use this number line to help them. It's not about them placing it in the exact position and knowing that this is exactly where 27 is, but understanding that if I say, oh, I know 27 is the smallest and I'm going to put it here, that everything else is larger and would have to fall in here. And now I can go ahead and put them in order however they need to be, whether they're listed that way or they're listed up and down. 36 and 42 in order to put them in order from least to greatest. So make sure that the students are always going back to that number line and placing those numbers there. A couple of activities that you could do for the students is going back to those facts that they were given. If you give them random facts about the animals and it's just kind of all spread out, the students could then take this information and they could create a display. You could give them pictures of the animals and they have to put them in order from least to greatest. It's something that could hang outside. They could choose their 3 favorite animals and make some type of poster display to show them in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. You could give the students factual statements that they have to determine if what they read is correct or incorrect. So using the same information from these pictures, a cheetah can run 75 miles per hour, an antelope can run 60 miles per hour. The cheetah runs slower than an antelope. As a student, I need to evaluate, I need to analyze the information that I'm given about the animals, and this is just taking that math one step further, moving it along that depth of knowledge, giving them a chance to really analyze the data and not just giving them 75 and 60, which number is greater, which number is less than, what symbol belongs in between them. But I'm having to do that more higher level thinking. Another activity, the last one that I have to share, is we could have the students make some jumps. We can measure how many inches or how many feet that they jump. We can put the class in order. We can make predictions and jump again, and just do some different comparisons that way, but having the students use actual real numbers that means something to them. If you have any other questions about number sense and comparing and ordering numbers, you can always email us and we'll be able to help you with that, or you can look at your instructional talk page that can be found on Forethought.